Okay. We'll give everyone a few moments to hop in. Thank you, Instagram, for telling my followers that I have just started a live video. Well, let's get into it. This is the sessions. Welcome if you are joining for the very first time. Today we have sessions 17. The Sessions is a weekly speaker series, and it is an offshoot project of the Vancouver Vegan Resource Center. The Sessions was established way back in March when COVID-19 introduced itself into our lives, and the Sessions was started as a way to continue education, discussion, engagement, awareness, and many other things. Since March, with the exception of maybe one or two, we have had a session every single week. And every week we have a rotating subject and a rotating guest. So to clarify, that is 17 different ones, which I believe is quite incredible. Today we are speaking to Pei Su, who will be joining us shortly from the UK. Pei is the founder and the ED of ACT Asia. And ACT Asia is an organization which uses primarily education, humane education, which we will discuss more, to teach folks about compassion for animals, compassion for humans, and about respect for the environment. The majority of their work is within China and all across Asia. And today we're going to dive into the work that they do. Specifically, we're going to be chatting about some things pertaining to COVID-19, to social education, to community, to racism, and many other subjects which are very relevant and very pertinent. So, I believe Pei is here, so if we stand by. If Instagram cooperates this week. We had some fun adventures last week, so let's hope that doesn't happen. Hello!
Hi.
Welcome to my office.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me into your office.
How are you doing, Pei?
Good. It's great to be able to connect with, you folks in Vancouver or in Canada. And it's a great pleasure to be able to join you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I feel that this is a great honor to be able to speak to you and to hear about your background and your vast experience and knowledge as well.
Oh, great. It's great to be able to share our experience, with many of you outside China, and to share the different perspectives as well. So, I'm really looking forward for our discussion today.
Me too. And it is your 8 o'clock in the evening, correct?
Yes.
And you're in the UK?
Yes, at the moment, lockdown in the UK.
Yes, of course. Okay. We're not in lockdown, but based on current circumstances, I would say it's probably something that we're inevitably going to be facing again.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it's quite
so
globally. So yes.
Yeah. Well, why don't we jump into it? So you probably saw me just previously. I gave a very short introduction about you and about ACT Asia. So if you want to take the floor, I will hand the microphone to you.
So should I just go through the questions you proposed? is what would be the best way? You always that you take the lead, really, or
Sure, of course. We can really do either. We can work with the questions, or if you have a presentation segment that you'd like to talk about first, then you can do that, and then I will jump into the questions afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, for maybe it's quite good to introduce ACT Asia first. You know, I co-founded ACT Asia back in 2006. So this is our 14 years of operation as organizations. Next year we will be 15 years, you know, of operation. So it's a big teenage year. I set up ACT Asia because I feel as Asian and I grew up in that part of the world, I was able to work with international organization in the UK as a global headquarter. But I feel there was a gap between the difference between the movement, you know, how we see the movement in Asia and how, you know, the Asia see, you know, the global movement. So I see there's a huge gap. And I feel by setting up the ACT Asia, I will be able to bridge the difference and then, you know, bring up the movement in Asia more faster to in line with the development globally as well. And I think ACT Asia has been very successfully operating to bring in the bridge, you know, and follow this global direction and make it a better planet for human, animals, and nature. And we have three strengths in our program. So it's all focused on changing the attitude, you know, for sustainable long-term change for human, animals, and nature through our education program. So that is children's education and consumers education and professional education. So it's really a different target audience, but to you know, target, you know, the multi-stakeholders as well. So all the different relevant parties. It's because I felt sometimes if we are just focused on the grown-ups, but actually the kids are very important for the future. But sometimes also it's very important to not, you know, just focus on the kids, but all the grown-up doing the bad thing. So for example, like now we as consumers at the moment probably will destroy our planet. Every day our consumption, you know, our endless consuming behavior destroy our planet. So we left our children with no legacies. So I think that's what we feel is more multiple approach in education is really important
with kids. Mm-hmm. So what I'm wondering if we can segue slightly, because this term humane education, this is a term that we are seeing more, and we're seeing more and more organizations acknowledge it and also acknowledge the fact that it is crucial, whether it be humane education in high schools or in elementary schools, or even younger perhaps. So I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about exactly what humane education is for people who may tune in who perhaps have never heard that word before.
We developed a Caring for Life education, and is ACT Asia's Humane Education program. So I can read it out, you know, the Humane Education is, you know, education encompass of, you know, global citizenships, you know, the responsibility towards human, animals, and nature, and is including social justice, you know, the animal protection, you know, the human rights issue. So is education really, you know, including all, you know, different social issues. In the end of the day, in very, very short sentence, is how to be a responsible human being. And this responsible human being is not only, you know, have compassion, empathy towards human, is including non-human animal, including the environment we live in. And I think come back to the COVID is this has been a wake-up call for us globally. The nature
Huge.
and animal are shouting to, human to say, we had enough, something got to be changed. And I think this is what Asia has been working in China, particularly, or in Asia country since, 2000 and to 2012. We have focused, this is our 8 years to focus on the humane education, particularly in Chinese school as well. But the caring for life education is, a rounded word is regardless of what age you are. They all need to be, taking, the attitude to care for all different forms of life as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what is the range of ages for the humane education that you're currently focusing on? So are you working with younger kids, yes, teenagers, so everyone?
For our school education, that is our children's education, is one of our main strengths. And we focus on the kids from 6 to 12. So it's in Canada, turn probably your grade 1 to 6. The 6th grades. And we feel this is really important because where the academic pressure is less, because once the kids are going to 7, 8, 9 grades, the academic pressure again mounting up, they get more and more. The 6th year is where they learn to how to behave, what is a social view, what is, they're forming, the first 6 years, their personality, their character. In a North American, probably you use the term called character education, or quality education. So this is where we are coming to, really is redefine in a way, in a much broader term, is what's the purpose of education. The purpose of education is not just to be, what is the best job you're doing, what is your job. The purpose of education through UNESCO's, the purpose of education is know the world, sense the world, participate in the world, then living together in harmony. And I think globally that purpose of education have been lost, particularly in China. We are very in academic achievement, but the emotional intelligence and how to be a responsible person, that is really important. And that's what we are trying to teach in China as well.
Mm-hmm. And what has been acknowledging that it's not the same for every student or every parent, what has been the response or some of the responses to this education based on the fact that for you and for the ACT Asia programs, for many, it was the first time that something like this has been introduced within the school system?
I think maybe we should go back to one step before is
sure.
I have been, campaigning for animals for almost half of my life. And, I'm coming to working for this sector for more than, it's coming to almost 30 years. And I used to be on the front line. I have done many undercover investigations, and I have done, lots of campaigning, protesting, lobbying, etc. So when I think in 2012, and it was my 20 years of anniversary for my, my own personal movement, and I feel, what am I going to do next 20 years if I can live another 20 years? And I feel it's so much what we're doing is we are just trying to fixing the leak with like a bad approach. This is a lot of trade issue. Let's go to protest the trade. There's a tiger issue. Let's go to protest the tiger issue. That is, the rhino home or bear farm or, the dog meat. This is the endless, the list of the animal abuse, the list of, the issue, challenge we're facing every day. And I feel we've got to start to address the root cause with a paradigm shift. I know this sounds all big jargon, but I really honestly think we've got to start it with, the school education with the children. And when we go to school, we don't teach ourselves. We train the school teachers to do it, or we try to, we have to get a group agreement and permission from the school principals. And so although we're teaching the children, we actually have to discuss with the school. We have to discuss with, the authorities and the grown-ups. So they got to understand what we are trying to achieve. So although the approach seems the target audience is children, but to be able to have a program reach the children, there's several steps we have gone through. So we are very, in very subtle way, very gently, we are changing the mindset to the grown-ups as well, to the decision maker as well. And I think that's where our strategically approach is coming from, is target professionals, that people like educator and schools, management authority, and then go to the teachers and go to the children. So we are addressing the cause. We are not just, when the kids grow up, they got to really learn and understand animals are sentient. Animals have feelings. Animals are not just objects. Animals is not just the natural resources for human to take whatever we want, the way we want to use. Lately, the news, the media have been talking so much about how much our, biodiversity is missing. They were 20 years ago, we are losing 60% of the biodiversity. So all of this is got to really addressing, very fundamentally, is how do we change everyday's behavior? How do we, it's great to have a policy. It's great to have all, these big decision to agree to how we change it, for the climate action or climate convention. But at the end of the day, I felt what Education tried this through our Caring for Life education is target the school children. Also, the consumers say, live in a compassionate life, live a compassionate lifestyle. And I think, of course, many vegan, activists, they are already doing it. But I think that what we are trying to is not just, we want to, nurture the future vegans, the future, the children, they grow up to say, this is what the lifestyle I want to be. This is I want to do. All different, taking different action to protect, Earth and protect the human, themselves and animals and the nature as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you hit it on the head of the nail, because those years are also so formative. Because when I think about being in school many years ago, that's the place where kids and youth get some of their first ideas around animals, around the particular value that we assign to some animals and the complete lack of value for others, what certain animals are used for, and where they are in our lives. So just to shift that whole conversation and then have young people considering animals differently at such a young age, it seems like such an obvious thing that we need to be focusing on and doing more of.
I think, yes, it is very obvious, but it's a very lonely, non-sexy project. Sometimes we talk to a lot of activists. This is what I keep saying in every interview. The people will say, "Great, you're doing education. It's really good, but how about can you go to immediate to end the animal suffering?" I think sometimes, although we feel this is important, but there's always more urgent issues coming up. There's always more, they want to. So, for example, if I say to them, help me to teach these kids, they understand these dogs are alive. The dogs have a sentience like us. Or they will say, well, okay, that's good. But that can't ended up suffering, you know, when there are 100 dogs on the market, can you go to,
Yeah.
you know, there's no right and wrong. But like I say, I personally feel I've done that in my first 20 years. I feel, you know, no amount of money can, you know, end the suffering, in my belief, more effectively. You know, rescue that 100 dogs might be very useful for the time being, but where are you going to take these dogs? You can buy the dogs from the market, but where are you going to put them? You know, you have to feed them for another 16 years or 15 years. But if you have the child grow up to say, actually, once we know they've been told what the suffering, or they understand, you know, they can make that informed judgment to say, you know, this is wrong, I don't want to do it. And there are more and more kids will be like that. They are more and more the young Chinese generation, they will say, you know, well, cow milk is not good to us. We don't need cow milk. We want to drink, you know, oat milk, you know, rice milk. And I think that is where we make our movement become bigger. You know, we try, you know, reach the critical mass, and we should be mainstream. You know, I have said to many people, we are compassionate people. We people, we care. We're not extreme. We are mainstream, and this is one of the things through our education, education, we want to create this a bigger movement, and you know, make ourselves not being seen as, you know, the extremists that try to shout in and then screaming. We are trying to say we actually are the intelligent mainstream people to, you know, our world better.
And what kind of responses, kind of jumping back, and then I also saw someone actually ask this question in the stream. What are examples of some of the responses that you get from students and parents? So have you encountered any parents who think this should not be part of school curriculum?
When we started, you know, like we have now the school we have reached is more than 100, you know, and
huge.
You know, we coming up to, this is our 8 years, you know, in the end of 2019, we have reached over 96,000 kids. You know, at the beginning, we did feel maybe we could only get a couple of schools and maybe they were going to kick us out. But so far, the school we have approached, you know, some of them may not stay long, you know, continuously, but we have a school that haven't continued to use this for since the beginning of the program. So, you know, once they understand the purpose of this curriculum, once they understand is for the bigger picture, for one house, one care, it is very welcoming. Especially, nobody will be disagreed for our kids to take more responsibility. You know, of course, it's not that easy. You know, I talk to parents all the time. You know, because of lockdown this year, we can't be doing physical. So I started to, you know, parents talk, you know, it's called Parent Power. And last month, I have over 1,000 of the parents to join the talk.
Amazing.
Try to explain to the parents what is called critical thinking, what is called emotional intelligence. Although I didn't address what we think is what called animal rights, but we are using much, you know, broader term to bring them in to understand, you know, a person have emotional intelligence will be able to understand animal are suffering. That, you know, the person have a high emotional intelligence, they will be able to show the compassion and empathy. You know, I think that's where we go back to the root cause is you bring up the kids are compassionate, is empathetic. And that empathetic, you know, attitude and thinking is expand beyond just humans. It's including where we live and who we live, who share the world together. And I know it sounds quite, it could be very abstract or grand, but it's very simple. Really, step by step, we make the kids understand how should they behave. You know, today, lots of people have been talking about, you know, One Health approach or what kind of children we want to grow up. They are facing enormous challenge in the world, economically, consumer, you know, all these challenge they're facing. And we are doing our part to ensure, you know, we can continue to be healthy, but this healthy planet is including not just us. Yeah. And I think the parents has been, once they know what we're doing, they are, you know, they understand, the parents actually will be able to support us. You know, I have a parent come to me and say, I don't know what you are teaching them really, but my child have become very, you know, empathetic. And my child will come to me and say, thank you so much for what you have given to me and what you have supported me. We have kids, you know, they will tell their parents they don't want to go to see animal circus. You know, we have the kids, they will say, when the child will write a letter to the principal, say, I see my friends, my classmate abuse a frog outside the school. They were cutting the frog open, tearing the legs off. She will be able to write the letter to the principal. Mm-hmm. We also have the kids, you know, they were saying, you know, I don't want to eat this turtle soup, you know, because the parents thought, you know, to enable this child to grow bigger and taller and stronger, turtle soup with best tonic. And the child actually say that's murder. You know, this is not, we didn't go to school to say, don't eat this, don't do this. We are saying, understand this living being, we are part of nature, we are all co-dependent each other. The kids will make that choice. The kids will say, the animals in zoo is very sad. And they make that choice. This is where I say paradigm shift. We bring soil seeds in these young children's mind. At the moment, if we just keep saying this is wrong in China or in Asia, I always use this analysis, you know, this is now concrete. We need to cultivate the ground. We need to make sure they are ready. The school is the ground that allows us to cultivate it. Now we sow in these seeds and rice all the seeds so they don't become weeds. You know, seeds they can the kids will become, you know, the future and a generation with, you know, high emotional intelligence and understand compassion and empathy and so on.
Mm-hmm. Well, something that, well, many things jumped out from what you just said, but the piece for me is really critical thinking. And the fact that when you encourage and when you teach critical thinking in youth, whether it be kids or teenagers, that's really the root. That's really where the brain shift begins to happen. And there's an organization in Canada called Peace, and they work with supporting animal rescue sanctuaries, but they actually just started a humane education program. And one of the things that we've chatted about a lot is the piece of critical theory and encouraging kids to ask questions and encouraging kids to challenge what they've been taught before, and teaching them that it's okay to ask those questions and want to learn more and then form their own conclusions about things.
Yes, I think it's you know, critical thinking certainly is one of our main, you know, area we address in our curriculum, because, you know, we are not just kind of like rote teaching, or we just like chanting the same thing, say do this, do that. That is for them to make the right judgment. You know, in today's world, there's so many information floating around. Allow them to make that right choice. This is where the future is going to be. And I think come back to really important is the kids have empathy. They are empathetic when they're young.
It's there.
Where in our world today, have we been able to provide an environment to nurture them from very early start? You know, and I think that is where is very important. Yeah, and that's where we want to start in the education as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So I will kind of swing us about COVID-19 and how kind of the surgence of the pandemic has perhaps changed what ACT Asia is doing, or have there been new areas of focus, new campaigns? How has that prompted shifts in the organization in any way?
The COVID, has a great, has a significant impact globally. I think in the charity sector, in many organizations, certainly has impact on ACT Asia as well. I used to travel a lot. I used to give a lot of talk, meeting, all different people. I'm now more, restricted in the organization. And however, since the COVID, what ACT Asia have done is we have never had one day not working. We carry on to whatever the way we can. We adopt, several, our program to using, online format, to continue our work. On the ground itself, I think we felt very close to the issue is because it was happening in China, as a ground zero we felt. And we felt we want to be able to, monitor the situation and give the feedback is what's happening on the ground. COVID is a great, it's a very sad example. It's a sad case, for the global impact. However, it does give us a very significant, signal and platform to really talk to the wider audience within China as well within Asia, or probably outside, globally. People are no longer to think, when you talk about the wildlife trade, it used to be thinking just wildlife issue. But now with the wildlife trade, everybody think about public health.
Yes.
Everybody think, oh, okay, in the past, the people more focused on the endangered species, the wildlife trade. But now more people think, wow, wildlife trade actually will have a public health concern. So this is a great thinking, and I think one of the things, probably the best thing come out from COVID in China is the consumption of wildlife has been banned. And this is very significant. Of course, we always said, but what about using wildlife in traditional medicine, in circus, in zoos, or in, clothing, so in other areas that we're still using wildlife, very huge amount. However, this is what has been happen in China is this consumption of eating wildlife is not allowed. Of course, there's still a loophole, because some wildlife has been now removed to be classified as livestock. It's not.
Of course.
Okay. So if for example, what we feel is really bad is a loss of amphibian like turtle, frogs. They could all be classified as aquatic animal. So basically, you can carry on to eat these animals, but they are still wild animal, and they still have impacts on biodiversity. But the good thing is the awareness about the wildlife trade, the eating and commercial, use of wildlife in captive environment have been addressed a lot issue. And also, I think don't forget about, we might think, things live market, wet market, is all bad about China, but I think people in the West also have to take a responsibility as well.
I agree.
Keep pointing the finger in China or in Asia, say, Thai, Laos, Vietnam, they all bad. Yesterday I saw just latest article come up from Newsweek. They say United States imported over 30,000 bats body parts from China in last 5 years. So it's very easy to say, you guys are bad, you get bats, you got all these things, but who bought it? They actually export, you know, and also lots of exotic pets as well. You know, American are the biggest buyer for, you know, reptile trade. And the reptiles, where they come from, lots of them come from Malaysia and China. So they were satisfied this reptile pet trade for the West. You know? And so I think we are all in this together. Is, you know, I think we received a lot of racist comments during the COVID. You know, we will become, you know, very kind of like target audience with hatred comments, etc. You know, I can understand people's anger, but I think it's bad just play the blending games. You know,
of course,
we are all in this all together, and when there is killing, there is a consumption, and who is taking what blend, you know, it's irrelevant. Is we got to address all this all together as well.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say, what has ActAsia been doing specifically in terms of whether it be campaigns is a challenge, right, to kind of work against some of the pieces that you just mentioned, so to kind of correct and address some of the racism and or the racist tendencies, and kind of shift some of the thought patterns that have emerged from COVID and China's relationship to COVID?
I'm not sure I get your questions. Would you like to elaborate again?
Yes.
Sorry.
Here, I'm just going to move here for 1 second and plug in the joys of technology. So I guess a reword would be what kind of campaigns ActAsia has been doing that look at some of the racist tendencies that have come up around China in relation to COVID-19, and what kind of work ActAsia has been doing to address those and talk about why they are not accurate.
I think we, like I said, since the COVID, you know, then when there's a lockdown globally in China, from China to America to Europe, you know, I think we haven't had one day not working. You know, we
not working, of course.
Even work harder because we feel it was a ground zero. We feel this is a chance to speak to the Chinese audience. We feel this is a great chance to speak to the media in China, also
yes,
to report to the outside international, you know, arena, to say this is what we are doing. You know, we seize the chance to use COVID to really voice, magnify the importance of caring for life education, because caring for life education from the beginning was talking about human-animal relationship, the co-dependence. So we use this to address, you know, what we are already doing it. You know, we're not just started doing, you know, something we haven't done. You know, we are basically, this is what during the COVID actually we're showing what ActAsia is doing is even more urgent,
more
than in China.
Yeah.
And when people are coming to say, you know, what about all the bad things still happen? Yeah, it does. Bad things still happen globally. You know, like I said, yeah, the trade might still carry on, but the trade itself, you know, even look at, you know, I have talked to you about the trade for the reptile to the bat trade. We're just talking about the other trade issue is fur trade. You know, everyone can say, well, China is the biggest fur farming country. You know, the fur animals, minks and raccoon dog, they could be possible intermediate hosts for COVID. You know, you can always point to China and say, you see, you guys so bad, you guys, you know, have such a big, you know, over 50 millions of, you know, the fur animal. Yes, that is a problem. However, in North America, in Canada, you know, in the United States, in Europe, we export lots of products to China to satisfy that market. The global
Exactly.
trade. The Copenhagen, the Copenhagen trade, auction, the North American trade auction, they go to, China to do the big business. China has, there has been years, the China market has become the rescuer for the North Americans fur trade. So who is making that money? It's not only China, it's the trade body outside of China. So once I say is, we are in this together. We all have to take our responsibility. That's not blaming the who are the worst. We got to fix it this together. We have organizations like Act Asia. Please do support us to do the educational work. Please help us to change the mindset, changing the mind and heart in China. In future, people will say, you know what, I don't want to buy the fur products, and I don't want to start the business, the agriculture business, or farming that will damage, the environment, that will harm animals and harm our humans. This is where we are trying to come back to what I keep saying is address the root cause. It's not only just fixing a leak. It's not saying fixing the leak not important, but we can't just stay on continue just fixing the leak, because then the leak will always happen. You block here, you fix here, there will somewhere will all come pop up. That's where I talk about, when you're not talking about the tiger issue, you're not talking about elephant, then you will talk about pangolin. They keep coming out, popping out. You trade different animals, you trade different species, because in the head, if they think that animals are our nature resources, we're not going to end this.
No.
And
no.
now,
well,
even talking about the factory farming, there's another big topic we can talk, all night long, really.
Well, and I think something you said, which is really important, you've said it more than once, but that is to remember that we are all a part of it, and we all have a role. And I think it's very easier for people to pass the buck.
Yes.
And say, no, they're responsible for it. I have nothing to do with it. Whereas it's harder for people to think about their role and what they need to change to help a situation shift.
Absolutely. I think I can understand people are angry, frustrated.
Of course.
They have this kind of reaction, but that's what I keep saying, reminding everyone, we all in this together. I've said this probably about 3-4 times in this talk now. And the pointing finger is easy.
It's easy.
It's great to feel there seems some hope to do it. But if complex straight, I talk to various, the specialists or people together. They all said, we are part of it, especially in what we call global north, where more well-developed countries, they are responsible, for various things. And it's not just, a country. Today's world, everything is interlinked. We are in a global
everything.
Although this is a term we don't use that, but we are interlinked. When the climate change, when the biodiversity loss, it doesn't matter which country. They were saying that the bugs, that the virus would not know whether you are Chinese or not Chinese, where is Canada or China or Asia. That for virus it's going to be all together, really.
Everywhere. And Pei, do you, just before we move away from the subject, this question that just has come up from one of the attendees, what kind of education is happening around the fur issue?
Right. So when we talk about on the fur issue, we actually just developed a sustainable fur-free fashion curriculum. This is the curriculum we have written together with London College of Fashion, that is under University of London. And the curriculum will be targeted for university students who study fashion in design, in communication, and in business management. And for its university course can be used for these 4 years. And so really is trying to change, to bring in the sustainable fashion and with link with the fur to enable the future fashion people, people working in the fashion industry, they understand what's the problem is using fur. So again, where our latest fashion curriculum for them, that it will be more targeted to the university grade and the first year to fourth year study. And it doesn't only design, is for now the fashion people, they start in fashion communication, they start in fashion industry business management, so they can all understand why fur is not sustainable for our future.
Well, and what a perfect example of where humane education comes into play, especially with something like fashion, because so much of fashion depends on trends and what is current and what is new and etc. and etc. And fashion is such a fantastic place where there is opportunity to move away from what we have been doing and be more innovative and be more creative and set new trends. And I think when it comes to something like fur in fashion, it's not only unethical and unsustainable, it's run its course. It's time.
Yes. And I think that globally there are more and more victory, that the fur farming being banned. This week, France just banned the fur farming. They are, Poland probably will be the next country. They are the second biggest, mink farming country. So if that is banning, I think we globally we are making these, towards the right direction. And I really believe the more country, more retailers, more fashion designer, they stop using it, they will have an impact in the country like China.
Huge. Well, and also I believe it was also yesterday. Yesterday was a day of many announcements. Nordstrom announced that they're going to be phasing out fur as well, which is a big one too.
Yes. So this is you can see these are multi-stakeholders. They work together and then come to the decision. We currently in the UK they're going to talk about ban the fur trade as a nation. So again, that is following the success in San Francisco, in Los Angeles. The fur trade was banned there, but this could go to the next level as well. So this is where all the right direction. And if we set up the example in globally, and I think one day, we are hoping this message, that's what ACT should come in. Whenever with a message, we make sure the message is received from social media, in our platform to be received by the media and for the public in China as well.
So I have so many questions that I would like to ask you, and I'm just keeping my eye on the time because Instagram only lets us talk for an hour. So something that I'm very curious about is ACT Asia the only organization doing this type of work at this level?
Yes.
Are there?
Absolutely. ACT Asia is one of the, we have won a lot of awards within country. Also, I think we really put my heart is, we are the only organization probably in the world to work in the human education in such a systematic way. We have our own curriculum, we set up our own, the training program, and the curriculum was from grade 1 to grade 6, is instead of just train a volunteer go to teach. And also the scale we're doing, we definitely is the only organization work on the fur issue actively, and to bring in the sustainable fashion into the topic to link with the animal issues as well. A lot of time when talk about sustainable fashion, they still stay in the idea about recycling or fast fashion. We are make it link with environment and animal issue as well. So, I mean, you got to understand the animal protection movement or animal rights movement still in its infancy in China. In the UK, in North America, the first legislation in the UK for animal protection law is 1824. In America, it's probably in the early 1900s. We are in now 2020. China have animal protection law. So that is,
yeah.
you know, and we have lots of, and there are more animal groups as well. They are increasing, but a lot of them still try to focus. Most of them are companion animals, as it is, because it's very prominent. It's very, you know, easy to be identified. So because there are still so many stray animals in you know, being on the streets, and or they're being caught by the government. So that is majority of resources have been spent within China in that part of the movement, for us to address, you know, from compassion living, compassion lifestyle, from how we dress, how we eat. I think we are the only organization to, you know, broaden such a, you know, the scope as well, and then address education so specifically with all.
Now I'm just trying to think, how do you feel about the work that some perhaps global organizations have been doing in terms of bringing animal activism and animal advocacy to many different parts of the world?
Are you saying what other groups are trying to do internationally, or what do you think? So,
well, I mean, not to be cliche, and I definitely have some mixed thoughts about an organization like PETA, but obviously PETA is an organization which operates in many different parts of the world and has many different campaigns and different approaches. So how do you feel about an organization like that, who is, you know, definitely not focusing their efforts on one particular place, because they are attempting to really reach a broad audience, but how do you think, what is their role versus an organization that has a very specific focus such as ACT Asia?
I mean, it's great. They have resources. They can work in different countries. And, you know, I used to work with one of the organizations like that. That's why I decided to leave, because I see the restriction. I see the difference, the focus. You know, I feel the international organization, when they work in the different country and different culture, is very complex. You know,
very, yes.
It's the method you probably use very well received in North America, in Canada, and China, in America, may not be, it's definitely not applicable in a country like China, because the social political context is so different, right? So it's not only the culture different, the political context different. You know, you just can't go run around naked in Tiananmen Square.
Exactly.
By the legislation, you make it like we are a bunch of, you know, not that the image is not well received. You know, we are professional. We could, you know, not been labeled as just sensational or, you know, very erotic, you know, behavior. So there was not right or wrong in my view, but I don't agree that will be the right context for country to do that in a sense. So I think we got to be, that's what I get to understand. We don't want to be seen as extreme. Come back to what I'm saying. We are the mainstream. We are the people. You know, I used to be seen myself as minority. You know, you're vegan, you know, you're woman, you don't, you know, do this and that. And it seems like we are so different from people. But actually, after, like I said, you know, since I acted, you know, I set out ACT Asia, I actually say, you know what? We are the mainstream, because we care. We want more people like us to care. And we should not making ourselves to push ourselves into that extreme bracket. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you got to buy the social norm. We are we live in that society, we work in the society. You got to respect its own culture. And I think some of the organization, in the way when they operate in the country, they just haven't respect that, you know, culture, or they haven't working out what is the best social political context. You know, if we're not careful, then you sometimes in the movement is you only got one chance. If you got wrong, once you are pushed out, that's it. It might take 10 years for a simple mistakes. You know, this is what we've got to be smart. We've got to be really you know, very, very business minded as well. Yes.
So the one thing that I would really love to ask, because I think this might take us to the end, because we're already there somehow. So you have been, as you mentioned before, just over 28 years. You've been in the world of animal advocacy and animal rights, which is huge. You're approaching 30 years. So what do you think, and I may know the answer to this based on what we've discussed, or part of it, what do you think needs to happen next for the movement to continue to grow and to be successful?
I think the last few years, you know, the vegan movement has become, you know, more, you know, progressive in a way, and we talking to more business, we get more, you know, business like Beyond Meat, a plant-based company, you know, the milk Oatly, etc. We are growing in a sense. We are taking a different approach. However, my deepest feeling is we've got to take education more seriously. We got to think, you know, education is the seed to sow the seeds for the future, to change the mindset, to change the heart. So when I started to, like I said, in my 20 years anniversary, I feel in my if I work another 20 years, I hope when I die or when I stop, there will be PETA in China, started by PETA, you know, Chinese people in PETA. We will have a mercy for animals. We would have a Canadian Human Society. But this is not because we tell them to do it. It's by the local people. They want to do it. They feel they want to advocate. They want to have, you know, the different organization to voice for nature, to voice for animals, for the peace movement. You know, I think this is where the key should be taking education seriously, taking, you know, support education. It might be very long, it might be a long haul, but if we are not changing the mind and heart now, we're not going to get out of this trouble. We're not getting out. You know, I saw the people say, how do we stop wildlife trade? I say, teach the kids, you know, why is wildlife important to us? Wildlife doesn't mean, you know, a soup. Wildlife doesn't mean bare biotonics. That intrinsic value of all these animals need to be told and teach when they're young.
And again, I agree with you, and I think this part of the discussion needs to be talked about more. And I still think who are coming to it for the first time, and something that I wanted to put on your radar, but also put on the radar for, sorry, as I shift again here, for folks who are tuning in, Peace, which is the organization I mentioned before, on October 18th, they're actually holding an online conference around humane education. So for organizations, for teachers, for parents, for anyone who's watching or watches after and wants to learn more about humane education in general, then that will be a really, really fantastic place to start and a really fantastic resource.
Great. It's great to have see, you know, organization want to address this issue, you know, like I say, all together. And you know, thank you for, you know, listening, and visit our website. You know, support Actasia's work. Is very hard, you know, to work in, you know, the current COVID COVID-19, and we do whatever we can, but we need the support from in every way. Send us donation or go to support our work, like us on the Facebook, share Instagram.
All of the above.
Exactly. So do all our bit. You might think you are not directly linked to that animal, but whatever you're doing, your action are making the difference from now.
And something that I'm going to do after we finish is I will post all of the social media information and also the website. So if people are not following or they have not visited the website, then all of that information will be in one place for them to find.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's great to really have, to be able to talk to you and to have this platform and the opportunity to share this experience with many of you as well.
Well, thank you again. I say this every single week. I wish that we had more time than 1 hour, because whenever I start these discussions, there are so many brilliant people and there are so many different areas we could direct the conversation. So it's hard because I just want to speak to you.
Yes. It is talk about as well,
Yes.
For 28 years, we can talk all night long, and China is so big as well. So there are so many ways we can address, question. And I think lots of people outside China, they have a misconceptions. It's very hard to really understand why it works, why it doesn't work, why we're doing what we're doing, why certain things happen there. So it needs time to explain as well. So I appreciate every opportunity I have been given. I appreciate, we will be able to talk like this, because 1 hour is very precious in our world, because when normally TikTok only give you 15 seconds. So, it's great. We have an hour here, it's almost a luxury. Normally people lost attention. I get so many times they say, you only allow 1 minute. I say, I don't know what to say in 1 minute. So, the hour is almost things is luxury.
It's very luxurious. Well, I would really like to thank you for not only being here and giving us an hour, but also thank you for your incredible history of work, and acknowledge the fact that you have been doing some very, very challenging work, and there is a very small group of people doing it. And I think 28 years plus is absolutely commendable. So I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate what you've done for the movement.
I feel like a dinosaur, believe me. It's sometimes but like the talk like this motivate me as well, because we feel we got to. I think a lot of time is communication to understand other, and to understand. Don't just pointing figure. A lot of, I think in this 1 hour we have addressed lots of very significant issue. We address a lot of concern has happened during the COVID as well.
All right. So I will close us there, but I will say thank you again. And this will be posted very soon, because we can now save them as posts, which is fantastic. And I thank you again, and I really hope to stay in touch, and perhaps in a few months we can have another discussion.
Great. Thank you ever so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in, join us, and help us to share in the world, the message, through your network, more people learn the importance of education for what we're doing, and to care, for our Caring for Life education program. And that's helping, helping us, helping animals, and helping to protect our nature.
All right. So we will talk to you soon, and thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.